From the basement of La Penta, it's WICR.
Hello, Iona College. Welcome back to the Sports Vault. I'm your host with the most, Jersey Joe. Normally, I'm here with my partner, Big Shot Rob, but he is in the middle of a media law and ethics midterm, so wishing Big Shot Rob the best of luck with that test. Hopefully, he'll finish up soon. He'll be able to join us towards the later half of the show, but I have got you fully covered for the first couple segments. Now, obviously, normally we're on Mondays, pushed back to Tuesday because of the Columbus Day weekend. And it was very nice to have that day off. Nice, rested up. Played some miniature golf with my brother. He beat me, but still very nice day off. And another great weekend of games, so very happy to get into it. So let's start off with the NFL with recapping everything. A very good week 6. I mean, it's unbelievable how we're moving so far along. I mean, it seems like just the other day I was on here with my Seahawks jersey after they beat the Packers week 1, and now I'm with the 49ers after the Monday night win in week 6. So it's been an unbelievably speedy season so far. But let's get into it. The first game I want to go over is the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Cleveland Browns. The Browns getting their second consecutive win off their bye week. And to be honest, the Steelers, I mean, I was doing my research last night. The number 12th ranked total defense, their yards per game, 337.0, and 139 total points they've given up. You wouldn't know that by watching this defense play. I mean, it is really just upsetting to see because this Pittsburgh team, for years, Dick LeBeau has just had this team as a perennial, the Steelers' defense is there, they're coming to play, and they're going to make the plays they need to. But this defense just struggles tremendously getting off the field. That's a lot of points they've given up, one of the highest in the league. They are ranked 12th because of the yards per game, but overall, I mean, they're giving up a lot of points. They're really having trouble stopping the big plays down the field. This Pittsburgh defense is not the same, and I've said it many times. This is a weird mishmash of you've got a lot of veterans, you've still got the Troy Polamalu's there, the Lawrence Timmons there, you've got a lot of old guys mixed with the young guys, and you're really seeing it's creating a weird balance on the defensive side of the ball. I'm not a big fan of them offensively, but they do make the plays. But you got to give a lot more credit to the Browns. I mean, Brian Hoyer, 7 touchdowns. He has no picks so far, 1 pick this year, 99.5 rating, and Mike Pettine's got the right formula working. I mean, coming off their bye, the Browns legitimately could be 6-2 right now. I mean, the first couple games they got off to a slow start, really made a game of it, especially week 1 against Pittsburgh. And this Browns team's got the formula for success. They've got a very good defense. Their quarterback's making the right plays, and Mike Pettine's obviously doing a good job there. So you get 2 wins off your bye week now. You're getting a lot more comfortable, a lot more confidence. Got to give the Browns a lot of credit. It's good for them to see, and thankfully, I think I'm figuring out the Browns pretty well because I've been pretty good picking their games so far this year. So I think Cleveland, things are definitely looking up for them. Let's go next to the Buffalo Bills and the New England Patriots. For the Bills, I mean, it's simple. Put in E.J. Manuel. I mean, I don't understand why Doug Marrone is so insistent on keeping Kyle Orton. And my thought process for this is we know what Kyle Orton is. We've seen it. We've seen him start in the NFL before. We know what kind of quarterback he is. You're not going anywhere with Kyle Orton. You're stuck in that mediocrity, going nowhere zone because you know he's okay. He could win some games, but E.J. Manuel is the guy you drafted last year to see if he's your guy, if he's your future. You're not going anywhere by keeping him on the bench. Let him play, see what he can do. If he's not your guy for this year, fine. Dump him and draft another quarterback, but don't keep him on the bench and just delay the inevitable. You're not winning anything with Kyle Orton. You're not even going to win the division with Kyle Orton, so just stop. I mean, I'm a little upset with Doug Marrone because I thought last year, with all the injuries they had, the Buffalo Bills, and the season they had with those injuries, was pretty impressive. I thought he was doing a good job, but just putting in Kyle Orton over E.J. Manuel right now just makes no sense. I think it's a really bad move, and I think Doug Marrone should get should hold responsibility for that and just put in E.J. Manuel. For the Pats, look, after they lost on Monday night to the Chiefs, they bounced back against the Bengals. Another dominant win on the road against Buffalo, which has been a tough place for Tom Brady to play. And look, the Patriots always make the adjustments. I think we can never overreact. Now, This team still has its limitations, but you look at this division, the Bills are going nowhere, the Dolphins are one of the hardest teams in the NFL to figure out, they're not going anywhere, and the Jets are a mess. Again, even if this New England team isn't as good as we originally thought, they're still going to win this division easily. They make the adjustments, it's an easy division, they're going to win this division. So at this point, it's just, there's not much more you need to say about them. Let's go on then to the Cincinnati Bengals and the Carolina Panthers. Of course, we were going to have a tie at some point this year. I guess we get it out of the way in week 6, and now the Panthers and the Bengals. But the weird thing about this game, I mean, I'm really disappointed with Andy Dalton. Everybody really killed the Bengals this offseason for giving him the contract extension, pretty much affirming that he's going to be their guy for the future. I wasn't ready to give up on Dalton. I thought this year was going to tell me everything I needed to know about Andy Dalton. If he is the guy for the future, he has to prove it this year, and right now he hasn't done it. I mean, you look at the Bengals right now. The Bengals are currently hold on, let me get their stat line up here. The Bengals are currently 3-1-1. So that's not a bad stat line, but you look at their 2 games against quality opponents, the Carolina Panthers, and then Carolina Panthers and the Patriots. They lost to the Patriots on Sunday night. The Panthers they tie against. The only times Andy Dalton's been tested, he's lost or tied, which doesn't make me very confident going forward. They play the Colts this week on the road, and you're telling me Andy Dalton can't beat New England on the road, and he ties against another good team, Carolina, at home, and he's going to go on the road against Andrew Luck. I'm not really feeling too confident about Andy Dalton there. I mean, the Bengals have a very talented roster defensively, a lot of weapons on the offensive side of the ball. Giovanni Bernard has had a very good year so far, but Andy Dalton has got to get over that hump where he's beating the good teams, and he's just not doing that yet. We know what he's done in the regular season, but still, the knock on him has been in the big games, and I just don't trust Andy Dalton right now. He's got to step it up, and I'm disappointed with him. And what about the Panthers? I mean, you look at where the Panthers' defense gone. Number 26 ranked defense at this point. They're giving up 140.2 rushing yards per game. Last year, they were one of the best teams in the NFL against the run. They only gave up 86.9 last year. And Luke Kuechly, I mean, is still the glue that's holding things together. He's played well, 74 tackles leading the league, but overall, it's really just surprising to see how much of a regression this Panthers defense has taken from last year, and it's going to hurt them. I think the Panthers being where they are right now, I mean, things are going pretty well for them. They are 3-2-1, but Cam Newton's played well. He has, even barring with the tough injuries he had to start off with. I think I like what I've seen out of Cam Newton. You got to give him credit. And Kelvin Benjamin, we should just give him Rookie of the Year right now. There's no one else offensively who's a rookie who's been playing as well as he has, and he's done exactly what the Panthers needed him to do. They lost all their receivers in free agent. They lost everybody. They lost Brandon LaFell. They lost Steve Smith. They lost every offensive weapon they had last year, and they really needed this kid to come in and make an impact for them, and he absolutely has. So you give that kid Kelvin Benjamin a ton of credit. Now going into the Jaguars and the Titans, do we really need to say a lot about this game? I mean, it's the Jaguars and the Titans, and of course, at the end of the game, the Jags would have the potential game-winning field goal blocked. That's just the epitome of the Jaguars' luck and how things go for Jacksonville. But it was an ugly game. It was definitely the weakest game on the slate of Week 6, but I don't know what more you would expect from this game. Both teams just not very good. I've been a little disappointed in Blake Bortles. I think it's going to be a tough start. You knew that, but I thought we would see a little bit more progression so far 3 weeks in. We'll see what's going to happen with them next week, but I definitely want to start to see a little bit more progression from Blake Bortles. Let's go on to the Miami Dolphins and the Green Bay Packers. One of the big come-from-behind wins of the week. Aaron Rodgers orchestrating the game-winning drive in that one at the end. And what are the Dolphins? I mean, they blur that line between mediocrity and are they kind of like on that edge of winning? It's very hard to predict. I say this all the time when I'm talking to people. I have the hardest time figuring out the Dolphins from any other team. Picking their games, I always struggle with. They're a hard team to figure out because they have some personnel, but they're just not consistent enough for me. And it's all on Ryan Tannehill. I mean, what do you do? Where are you going with Ryan Tannehill? 8 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 1,146 yards. How much time left do you give him? I mean, he's in his third year now. Do you give him another year after this? Is this it? I think for me, this is it for Ryan Tannehill. I mean, I've kind of seen what he is. He's helped this team kind of get to that 500 mark. It's really fallen apart late in the seasons there. So this season for me is what I need to see from Ryan Tannehill. If you don't really see a real push, which I don't think you will based on what we've seen so far, I think you got to start looking in a different direction, because I think Ryan Tannehill showed you he's going to be a 500 quarterback, nothing more. That's not what the Dolphins need. They're still going to be looking for their guy. So the Dolphins, for me, tough. And then you look at the Packers. Look, they've got their problems defensively on the line and on the offensive line. A couple sacks they gave up against Rodgers when he was trying to make plays really hurt that offensive rhythm. But overall, I think you look at Rodgers. He's playing really, really well. 15 touchdowns, 1 pick, 1,149 yards. Rodgers is playing very good football right now. And I think overall, as long as he's healthy, it's going to be good for them. I think Chicago is not going to be as good as we expected at the beginning of the year. So it's going to be between the Lions and the Packers, and I'll get to the Lions, but overall, I think it's going to come down to the battle between them. And now, unfortunately, we get to the New York Jets. I wish Big Shot Rob was here with me so he could just air his frustration about this, but I feel you, Jet fans, I really do. And you know, pretty much if you're a Jets fan right now, you pretty much know the season is over. I mean, you've got to be smart about it. You're probably going to go, you're going on Thursday night to New England. I think the Jets will give them a tough game, but I just don't expect them to win this game. That brings you to 1-6. You can't really expect much more from this Jets team. It's just been ugly, but it's over. Thursday night. The big thing for the Jets, though, is where's the running game been? Chris Johnson has been non-existent for this team. Chris Ivory's had his moments, but overall, this running game just hasn't helped out at all. Geno Smith, 6 touchdowns, 7 picks. What do you do with Geno? I mean, I think last year we kind of all thought, I don't know, maybe you could win with Geno, but at the end of the day, when you watch him, is this guy really capable of helping you win a Super Bowl? I mean, maybe he needs some more time to grow, but I just don't think that you have the time to wait for it. I think we kind of know what Geno Smith is. He's going to be an okay quarterback who can make some plays every now and then, not a great decision maker. I just think that the Jets, at the end of the day, if I'm at the Jets GM and I have a pick and I have an opportunity to take a quarterback, I think I got to roll the dice and take a new guy, because just watching Geno Smith, I see some good things, but when you think about it realistically, this guy really is just not going to win you anything. And for the Jets, it's ugly. The season is over, so just look forward to next year. Maybe towards the end of the season, their schedule gets a little bit better. You'll get a couple wins there, some enjoyment, but look, the season, it's over. There's not much more to say. Then you go to the Denver Broncos. Now, they did struggle a bit in this game. The Jets gave them a tough game. Defensively, the Jets were a couple plays away. I mean, they were so close to stopping Denver drives at some points, especially in the red zone, and they just came up short by a second or two. They really struggled. And you look at Denver as a whole, they're not blowing the doors off people like last year. Last year, that offense was just blowing the doors off people. The game started and it was over. But this year, they're 4-1, still very good. Peyton Manning, 15 touchdown passes, 30 picks, 1,530 yards. He's playing well, and they've got a very tough stretch coming up against the 49ers. Then they play the Chargers, then they go to New England. So that is a very tough 3-game stretch right there. I mean, it's hard to see them going 3-0 in that stretch. Maybe 2-1, maybe 1-2, more likely 2-1, but it should definitely, that's going to be a tough stretch right there. And the real story is the upcoming battle against the Chargers. Peyton Manning's a creature of habit. We know that. When you mess up his routines, you get him off his game a little bit. But so then, I think when the Chargers play him, he's kind of got that in his head. This is a team he has really struggled against. Lost to the Chargers at home Thursday night last year. The Chargers up 24-0 on Monday Night Football. He comes back from that one. But the Chargers, when he was back with the Colts, gave him problems. This is a team that over his career has given him problems. Peyton hears the noise. He hears us talking about that. I think that gets in his head a little bit. I think it really does. And it's going to be a very good battle. I mean, I think you got to give the Broncos the edge at home. just the way Thursday night games have gone this year, one of the teams has been at such an extreme advantage. It's hard to see Peyton Manning not being at a disadvantage here in this game. Everybody's gotta fall off a little bit eventually, so I do like Denver at home. But it's going to be a very exciting battle because I'll get to the Chargers in a little while, but they are playing extremely good football. I mean, Phillip Rivers is playing as good as anybody right now. The battle between Denver and San Diego is going to be really exciting, and you would think at this point, San Diego 5-1, Denver 4-1 because they're bye. Both these teams are going to make the playoffs, and that'll be very exciting to see. Now let's go to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, obviously getting their doors blown off against the Baltimore Ravens. I thought Tampa Bay was going to win this game, but let's forget about that. Let's go back to the Baltimore Ravens, and it's one of those games that reminds you why Joe Flacco is pretty darn good. I mean, the thing that drives you nuts about guys like Joe Flacco, guys like Eli Manning, is their inconsistency. I mean, I think they have all the talent in the world you could win. They've shown it. They both won. They've got 3 Super Bowls among Eli and Joe Flacco. But I think it's their inconsistency that drives you nuts because they've got the talent, but they're not always there on a consistent basis. But you look at Flacco in that game, 21 of 29, 5 touchdowns, 306 yards. I want this Flacco more consistently, and when you think about the AFC North, you think, what? It's pretty much a battle between the Ravens and the Bengals at this point. Maybe the Browns will continue to really evolutionize, and they'll really continue to get better. But I think at this point, it's safe to say we think it's going to be the Bengals or the Ravens. And when you put a guy in a big game, you give me a choice between Joe Flacco and Andy Dalton, I'm taking Joe Flacco. I mean, we already saw Andy Dalton go on the road and beat Joe Flacco at home week 1, but that's week 1. It was a while ago. I think Andy Dalton, I want to see how he continues to play against the big boys because I'm not impressed with Andy Dalton against the big competition. Joe Flacco, for his faults, for his inconsistencies, he's stepped up in the biggest stages when the Ravens have needed him over his career. So I think Flacco, I'm taking him over Dalton at the end of the day, but we will definitely continue to see how that goes. And now finally, we get to the San Diego Chargers now. I've kind of been holding it in a little bit, but can I just be a fan for a minute and talk about the Chargers? I mean, Phillip Rivers, outstanding, 15 touchdown passes, 2 picks, 1,756 yards, and the amazing thing about it too is they're missing their primary running backs, Ryan Matthews and Brown. They got him in the offseason from the Colts, and I just think it's so impressive because we saw a couple years ago all the talk, is Phillip Rivers done? I mean, is Phillip Rivers' career pretty much winding down? And it was mainly because of the offensive line. They couldn't protect Phillip Rivers, and he's a quarterback that's so stationary in the pocket that he really needs that time to get the ball off. His throwing mechanics are a little bit weird too, and it really requires that extra time to get the ball down the field. But you watch the Chargers now, and I see the old Phillip Rivers. You know, the guy was consistently getting to AFC championships. The guy is consistently winning 10 games a year. Phillip Rivers, it's so much fun to watch him play again because the one thing that I always used to like about Phillip was his cockiness. I mean, he was so cocky back in his young days. I mean, some people hated him for it, but that confidence, that cockiness, that swagger he carried himself with, it was so nice to see because this is a guy who, when the game is on the line, I always feel like Phillip Rivers was going to do what it takes to get the win. And you saw it again in that Raiders game. The Raiders gave the Chargers a fight in that game. It was a tough game for the Chargers, but Phillip Rivers, end of the game, brings the offense down the field. Defense holds the Raiders, gets the pick at the end. Phillip Rivers, though, is playing really, really well. And I think you look at the Chargers this year, their battle against Denver is going to be a lot of fun. Hopefully they'll split that 1-1. I think it will be a 1-1 split because Phillips played Denver very tough, and Denver definitely doesn't look as explosive as they did last year. And it's going to be fun. And you got to give... I don't think San Diego gets a lot of attention because of where they are in California in relation to us, but you look at Mike McCoy and that coaching staff, that is a very, very well-disciplined team, a very well-coached team. The one mark I think that always marks a good head coach is Is the team always prepared? Do you see the team always coming prepared? Are they ever always prepared for every single game? Is it close? Even when the Chargers were losing last year, you never felt like it was because they were unprepared. They're always prepared. The games are very close all the time, and I think that's a very big reflection of the head coaching staff. Mike McCoy, defensive coordinator, John Pagano, I think you give this whole coaching staff a ton of credit because they're well disciplined. They don't make mistakes. They're not turning the ball over, and I think that's a recipe for success in the NFL. Give the Chargers a ton of credit. Glad I could be a fan for a minute and really just get it all out about my San Diego Chargers. And then you go to the Raiders. Coming off their bye week, they definitely showed signs of life. David Carr's best game by far, 4 touchdowns, 282 yards. He really moved the football. He did. So he looked good there. And then you go on to the next team. Let's go to the Atlanta Falcons now. Again, for Atlanta's just killing me. Last year, I said it so many times, most disappointing team in the NFL for me. They killed me. I loved Atlanta going into the season last year. Extremely disappointing, and unfortunately, I think we're seeing much of the same with the Falcons this year. You thought after Week 3, they were back on track. Week 1, beat the Saints. You saw Matt Ryan play a great game. Week 2, lose on the road to the Bengals. Tough road loss against a good team. Didn't really make much of it. Then they blow the doors off the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on Thursday Night Football. I mean, it was embarrassing, quite frankly. And now you see Atlanta, and you're just like, I think this is more of the same of last year. And it's a weird team. It is, because you've got your quarterback. Normally, when you see these problems, it's a team that, they don't have a quarterback. Atlanta has a quarterback. They struggle to protect him. Offensive line is a big problem. They've got to get that fixed. Defensively, they've got a lot of question marks as well. But I think Mike Smith, I don't always like to come on here and always advocate for firing a guy, but Mike Smith, you look at what he's got there, what's happened the last 2 years. I always say it on the show, life in sports is all about momentum. When you start with something and it's good, and then you end with something and it's bad, you're going in the wrong direction. You can't be going down in sports. You got to be going up, or you're not going back down. So the Falcons have been trending downwards the last 2 years. I think if things continue for the Atlanta Falcons, Mike Smith, unfortunately, is going to have to go. Then let's go to the team everyone is talking about right now, the hot button topic for sports, the Dallas Cowboys getting the win on the road against the Seattle Seahawks. And look, for me, probably the biggest thing that I'm most impressed about is the Cowboys' turnaround defensively. Last year, it was atrocious. It was embarrassing watching that defense play. The Monday night game last year against the Saints was pathetic. But this year, you look at that defense, they're making plays. They're not making a lot of giving up the big plays. They're consistent on the field, and you got to give them a lot of credit for that. And DeMarco Murray has just been the cornerstone of that offense. 785 yards, leads the NFL. But the thing you've also got to look at him, he's also got the most attempts in the league with 159. And obviously, I was listening to Colin Cowherd a couple minutes ago, and this is now the new hot button topic. Are they really overusing DeMarco Murray? This is a guy who's had struggled with injuries in the past. You're really relying on him heavily with the run. Now, are you worried about him getting hurt, breaking down? I think that's definitely something to worry about, because DeMarco Murray, we know how well he's playing right now. 785 yards is a heck of an accomplishment at this point, but I don't want him to really just work him down, wear him down, because he's very injury prone, and if he goes down, things could really unravel fast for the Cowboys. The one thing that you've got to look back at this team is when you've shown in the past to have a weak mental toughness, things start to go wrong. DeMarco Murray's out. That could really unravel things for the rest of the team. But right now, Dallas is legit. I mean, you look at the offensive line, you give them a check mark. You look at the defensive side of the ball right now, you give them a check mark. And at quarterback, you give them a check mark. Tony Romo playing very well. Dallas has all the tools that it takes to make a run for the playoffs this year. I mean, 5-1, most teams that are 5-1 make the playoffs, I think 85% of the time. So we know the Cowboys of the past have fallen apart at points, but I think right now it's safe to say this Dallas team is going to make the playoffs. It's going to come down to the Eagles and the Cowboys. That will be a very fun matchup to watch, and I don't know what to expect here. Both defenses still have question marks for me when they play each other. Could be a very big offensive game. And then we go to the New York Giants, and I don't know. For the Giants, it's tough. I mean, I'm sorry, not the Giants. We'll get to them in a minute. We'll go to the Seahawks, who the Cowboys beat. Obviously, for the Seahawks, I don't want to overreact too much to it. Seattle's still a very good team. Offensively, they didn't have their best day. And I think you really look at them on the defensive side of the ball. I think teams are starting to really figure them out. Strong quarterbacks are not afraid to go after the secondary, especially Richard Sherman. I think Richard Sherman is really being exposed a little bit right now. Teams have not been afraid to go after him. The best two teams Seattle's played this year, the San Diego Chargers, the Dallas Cowboys. What do they both have? Very good quarterbacks. Tony Romo, Phillip Rivers. Phillip Rivers and Tony Romo really went after Richard Sherman. He didn't have a good day. I know Richard Sherman always going on Twitter defending himself, but no matter what he says in those games, he gave up big plays to receivers. The quarterbacks were not afraid to pick on him, and I think for the Seahawks, that's definitely something I'm keeping my eye on, because the thing that really helped them last year was how good that defense, how dominant that defense was in the secondary, and this year it doesn't look like it's the same. Teams are not afraid to throw on them, so Seattle's got to figure that out. Now let's keep on moving to the Detroit Lions. Now, the Lions are kind of weird in the sense that, I mean, they're the number one ranked defense in yards per game, 270.7. They're definitely been the best defense I've watched so far this year. But what's going on with the offense? Why is the offense ranked number 23 in yards per game, 330.2? I mean, if you told me at the beginning of the season the Lions would have the number one ranked defense and the 23rd ranked offense, I wouldn't have believed it, because what have they had consistently the last couple years? Very good defense. Matt Stafford, one of the better pieces, so many good talent and weapons offensively. Defensively, so unorganized, so penalized defensively. So I don't know why this offense still has so much stall. I mean, they stall so much they can't get into rhythm. They'll have a drive early in the game, put a field goal up on the board, score a touchdown, and they'll just have this stretch where they can't get any rhythm offensively. So I think Lombardi's, their offensive coordinators, really got to start to figure things out, because this defensive team is outstanding. They have a legitimate chance to win this division this year. I don't think the Packers are scaring you that much. The Bears aren't scaring you that much. The Lions have a legitimate chance to win this division, that since they've cleaned up their act on defensively, they're so good, and they have the tools on the offensive side of the football, but they've got to get in rhythm, because it's becoming such a detriment to this team, because they have so much talent. Now you bring in Matt Prater, you're going to get a little bit more consistency, helping you get more field goals. I think things are going really well for the Lions, but they've really got to figure out that problem there. Now let's keep on moving along to the next game, the Arizona Cardinals. I want to give the Cardinals a lot of credit. 4-1. More of all, I want to give Bruce Arians credit. I think he's the one head coach we don't give enough attention to. I really do. I think him and Mike McCoy have done a fantastic job with their new teams. Bruce Arians was 10-6 last year in the toughest division in football. He's off to a 4-1 start. This guy wins with whatever he has. You give him Carson Palmer, you give him Drew Stanton, and he makes it work. Good defensively. He's a fantastic play caller. You look at the play calling of this Cardinals team. I mean, like I just said, if you're making Carson Palmer and Drew Stanton win consistently in this league, you're doing things right. Bruce Arians is a heck of a football coach. This Cardinals team I'm all in. I'm all in on this Cardinals team. I was last year. I am now. At home, they're very tough to beat. They've got a very good defense, and they make enough plays on the offensive side of the ball. They've got talent. Andre Ellington can run the ball, and they call really good plays. So give the Cardinals a lot of credit. I think this is a very good football team. And then the Redskins, it's a mess. It really is. It's just been a rough start. Jay Gruden has really had a tough start to his coaching career. I mean, he hasn't really been helped out that much with Cousins coming in. I think week one we kind of got fooled. Griffin gets hurt. Cousins comes in and lights it up. And since then, he's really just struggled tremendously. It's a rough time for the Redskins. There's no other way to put it. And the final game to go over is the Sunday night game. Wasn't much of a game for the Giants. I mean, it was tough, but it wasn't on Eli Manning. The Giants' offensive line in that game was manhandled. And for the Giants, the thing I'm worried about here is it's bad timing for the G-men. The next couple weeks are brutal. They go to at Dallas, they play the Colts, then they play the Seahawks, then they play the 49ers, then they play the Cowboys again. Their season is most likely going to unravel here. It's just no other way to put it. At Dallas, I think the Giants will give them a tough... They always play Dallas tougher at home than they do at home, so they could win this game legitimately, but Dallas has got a lot of confidence right now, playing really, really well. The Giants now, Victor Cruz going down, Rashad Jennings now... The injury bug is catching up to the Giants. The offensive line is not helping Eli Manning. It's a tough stretch for the Giants, and this stretch right here could really unravel their season fast. Before you blink, you legitimately could lose 4 of these games. You could legitimately lose to the Cowboys, you could lose to the Colts, the Seahawks, and the Niners. Maybe you win a game or 2 in between there, but man, the Giants have got a lot of question marks right now. This is a brutal stretch to kind of go into after this tough loss, and unfortunately, I think it's going to be rough for the Giants. Then you go to the Eagles. Look, Eagles, good win there. I mean, I don't think their defense is that good, but they made that Giants offensive line look horrendous. I mean, they made a lot of plays offensively, and it's going to come down to the Eagles and the Cowboys, and I'm really looking forward to these matchups against them. They play each other late in the season, so we'll be talking more about them a little bit later in a couple weeks, but it's going to be a lot of fun because when both these teams are good, it's very good to talk about, and it's a lot of fun to watch because they hate each other, and it's going to be very good talk, so thank you for tuning into the NFL. Man, we went 30 straight minutes talking nothing but NFL. For the remaining time, let's talk a little college football, maybe talk a little NBA too, some MLB, but we'll get into that stuff when I come back from the break. Thank you for joining me and stay tuned.